My name is Sonny Liew. I was born in Seremban in Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia in 1974. But I moved here pretty early. I moved here when I was in kindergarten, second year, so that'd be 6 or 7 years old. Because my parents wanted me to come to Singapore to learn, learn English and Chinese, because in Malaysia they do everything in Malay. And I think when I was younger, I tried to really hold on to certain memories, but as you grow older, you do it's kind of fade. I think. I remember something like my dad had a dog, and the dog was kind of like running towards me, and I fell back and I hit my head against something. But
and after that, you blacked out.
No, but the thing
no
is,
memories after that.
I think it's very tricky because the more you try to remember something, the more it gets distorted sometimes. Like a memory of a memory of a memory. It's never.
You start to create it.
Yeah, you never show how accurate it is.
Yeah.
Unless you really get a really strong visual flash in your head. Otherwise, I think it's tricky.
Are your parents artistic?
Not really. My dad's a doctor. My mom was a nurse. Actually, my sister was pretty good at art when she was younger. In fact, she won quite a few prizes when she was in school.
How interested were your parents in the arts? How much of this did you have at home?
Nothing really. I mean, I would say my mom kind of helped out in the sense that she always bought comics for us when I was growing up. Like she would buy like the Beano and Dandy and novels and all those stuff. Yeah.
Do you remember how you got into this?
Yeah, it was through comics really. Did I ever want to do comics? I think I started thinking about it sort of a bit more seriously when I was in my early teens, when I discovered 2080, Judge Dredd and all those guys. Because before that I read a lot of comics and copied drawings, but I think that particular time, 2008, was very, very exciting. A lot of like very interesting artists and writers, like Alan Moore was, I think, just left, and then I think also at the right age, you kind of get really excited about the story. So I kind of looked at it and thought, it'd be cool to do comics at some level, but I didn't actually try to do anything till I was maybe 19 when I did straight for the blue paper.
When you looked at this comic book for the first time, which part did you see yourself doing? I mean, how did you think it was made?
I think probably more the art side. I think someone like Simon Beasley was there. He's doing his stuff, and I think the part interesting about 2080 was that it was a weekly magazine, and he had like 5 stories per issue, so you could see like 5 different styles, and they were all like very different and very. As compared to like you read Richie Rich, right? It's all kind of the same style, so you don't really think in terms of like, art can be different. You just think that it's just a very generic thing. Like Archie, even although there's some different artists, you can tell some better than others, but in general, you still have the same kind of style. Whereas 2080 was just really very different, I think, and that kind of sparked, I think, in me the idea that art can be, for comics can be very interesting.
So when you first began, you mentioned that you copied drawings.
Yeah.
Did you do what was your approach to creating these comics? Do you remember?
Copying the comics?
No, just to What did you do? What did you do exactly? Do you remember when you first started doing this? What did you do exactly? Like, what was the process for you?
If you're talking about the very early stuff, you just copied drawings, like a character you like, just copied it, right?
Just to try to get it as exact
in
as
possible.
In
your mind was as good to say, of course. You look at it now, it's,
Yeah.
And then later on, I'll copy the whole pages, like panels, maybe just one panel that I like. Like normally you copy like the splash pages, like action figures and all that. So and I was also into role-playing games a lot, like D&D and all that back then. So I would draw like fantasy figures like elves and dwarves and all that stuff. So,
but it sounds very visual. And it sounds.
So the moment I started drawing comics when I read Kevin and Hawks when I was in junior college. So I think I got really into it. So I thought it was very funny, very interesting. And then So when I came back from holidays one time from the UK, I think it was a long break. I just thought I want to do a comic. I want to do a comic strip about Singapore, sort of a little bit like Clement Hawks, but also different. So that's when I first did a comic, and I really didn't know anything about it. Like I didn't know you get to do like gutters, like with just like 2 straight lines, 4 panels, 2 straight lines drawn down. The writing was really horrible. It couldn't be read, so they had to type it. They had to when they finally printed it, they had to like remove my writing and type out in actual text. So yeah, it was just very rough at the stage.
So how old were you when you started drawing? Like
that, like trying to get paid doing it?
No, just first.
Well, you never. Well,
you don't remember?
Like all kids, you start. The moment you can hold a pen, you just start scrolling to stuff, right? I mean, people always ask like when do you start? I think it's like when do you stop for most people is a big question. Like everyone, I think, when they're young, has the instinct to draw and scribble. But a lot of people stop after a while because they
Yeah, but I think for my experience has been that for most people, it's they will what they will do is do it occasionally, whereas the difference between those people and people like us is we do it very regularly, and as we grow older, it becomes more frequent, and there's no I'm bored kind of feeling, what should I do? Which is how it starts. I mean, for most people it starts like, I'm bored, what do I do? And then they give you a pencil and a piece of paper and say, why don't you draw a little bit? And it's fun for a little while, but unless there's immediate progress or a lot of stimulation. I'm really not sure what it is, but I'm just curious because I got encouraged a lot. That means I always got a lot of positive feedback on my work, and that encouraged me to do more because I thought, hey, this is one way to to get attention and to get approval, and to it helped to make me feel like there was a little bit more to me than
I'm not sure if if you look at my sister, for example, like we drew probably at the same time at the same things because we read the same comics and like the same movies when we were young. So she probably did as much drawing as I did after a certain stage, and she stopped. Right? And
at what age was that she stopped?
She only stopped when she was in secondary school. So from after primary 6, I think she won like some national art competition drawings when she was in primary school.
But she still stopped when she hit secondary school, which is 13 or something. Yeah.
I guess partly it's the school system where you focus on like academic work, and she was very smart, so she did very well in school. So she.
So that was her reward. Because this is one thing that I think is for us, at least for me, it was very rewarding. I wasn't very good at anything else.
I knew, from primary school when I was drawing, I knew I was a little bit better than other people, but not everyone. I mean, there were people who were just as good as me or even better. So I wasn't I know a lot of artists you read about when they're young, they're the best drawers in their age group.
That I don't know, but I was definitely that I wasn't good at anything else. I wasn't good at sports or a little bit, but it was too much effort.
Okay.
Was there anything else for you that you were good at aside from this?
I was pretty good at school too. I mean.
Good grades, you mean?
Yeah, pretty good grades. So. Yeah, I was really into soccer, with my friends. It wasn't any kind of discipline kind of play, but.
What was the kind of feedback that you got when you were making your drawings?
Well,
What's the kind of response that your drawings were getting? What's the earliest response that you remember to any of your drawings?
Well, the only kind of legitimization of it was in primary school. I think one award in school. Like they gave me like a pencil case something for a drawing. And that was about it.
Well, you still remember it?
Yeah, I remember it because. But what I really remember is secondary school, Sec 1, Sec 2. So we still had art courses, and I was in school. And then my first year, I did this drawing, and I think they just base your entire grade on one drawing, and it gave me quite high scores. Like, wow, this is really easy. So I thought next year I'll do just as well. And then I really prepared a lot for the second exam in second year, and they gave me like a horrible grade, right? And I look at my friends, and they drew like this really horrible drawings, and they got high grades. And I thought, yeah, this is rubbish. So I think after that I kind of went off art for a while. Like I thought it's just.
You see, that's what I mean. It really is, I think, very much
Well,
to do
look,
with an outside stimulation.
okay,
That means if you don't get the response you want, you become less interested in it.
I think maybe I should correct that. Like I stopped considering taking art in school because there was a AEP program.
But you still worked on it
I
outside.
still drew my illustration, my Dungeon Dragons nonsense.
You mentioned this Dungeons and Dragons. The thing is, you know, you said that when you started doing a comic strip in a style of like Calvin and Hobbes, is that the first time you started writing?
Yeah. Okay, so I first time I think I combined the two together because I used to do writing, you know, for school writing and stuff. But I also did this. I'm not sure how you could say this comics, but I would create my own role-playing games. I would create adventures, characters. So you had the drawings and you had the descriptions and all that stuff on the side. So
but that's not
comics, no.
Well,
so
but that's not really a story because all you do is give characteristics like it's got this power, it can jump this high.
Oh, but you also have to write adventures and stuff. So there was
that is a story.
Yeah,
okay, because I'm not really familiar with the format.
So it was, I think, only with that strip that I actually started trying to dialogue with what we're doing.
Yeah, because the other thing that you mentioned is more like a storybook with some illustrations, right? That means they don't work together. You just have one full-size, full-body illustration of the character, and then a long description of what the character gets up to.
There are also maps and charts and all that.
But the character in action.
Yeah, so no.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you have the Harry Potter
yeah,
books have
exactly.
like
so
4 pages of text.
It wasn't comics until that's true.
So that was the first time you started like writing comics.
Yeah.
What age was this?
18, 19.
And you mentioned that it got published.
Yeah, because I sent it into Straits Times, the newspaper, and newspaper actually got. I think at the time they were looking for local artists.
Let's go back a bit. First, you said that you did a comic strip. You created a comic strip that you mentioned, right? So what can you tell me what it was called, what it was about, and when was the first time you had one episode ready?
Okay, it was called Frankie and Pooh. It was like two characters. Like so, the connection to Calvin Hobbes is that it was like sort of a human-like character and an animal character. So it was like a polar bear and a sort of a Frankenstein creature. So they both had like stitches and the Frankenstein pulls on their necks. And they just talked about Singapore society and world politics, basically. Censorship and all that. So it's pretty serious stuff. Like that. Cause I was interested also in political theory and all that stuff at the time. I was like in JC and uni at the time. So sort of combining that together with, I guess, the Calvin and Hobbes kind of characters and yeah. So. And I did maybe 12 of these, you know, like samples, very rough drawings, and I just photocopy and send them in, basically. Yeah.
And this was in which year, do you remember?
93? Yeah. That was...
Before computers.
Oh, it just started, because I remember I was in UK, and we just had our first email ever back then, you know, so... it was just the start of the internet, yeah. And when I did work for newspapers, I was also in UK at the time. I went to study, obviously, and so I had to send back stuff. We only had faxes, we didn't have scans and all that stuff. Yeah, so I had to fax back stuff sometimes when I was very late. Yeah.
But the quality of it would be
crap. Oh, that's horrible.
And it still would be published.
Yeah, like they didn't have really high quality control like that.
In which paper was this?
Newspaper.
The new paper, and from when until when did this?
Which is a year. Then we had sort of a tiff because see a lot of the stuff was very political, a little sensitive, and obviously the whole. When I came back one time, he actually sat me down and explained to me the whole idea of OB markers and all that.
Of?
OB markers. Okay, in Singapore there's this thing they call it OB markers, outward boundary markers, where they applies to any kind of art form, journalism, etc. Where the government doesn't say where the limit of we can go, but there's this kind of grey area where it's not really clear, and then when you pass it, they will know it and they'll tell you. So that's an OB marker. So I mean, anyway, a lot of the stuff that was too political, they would not use, right? So the daily strip you had to do like 5 a week at least, right, Monday to Friday. But you also probably needed a month's sort of supply so that you could, if you had any problems, you could, catch up. You could catch up later. But so at that point, I think I was having my final exams, and I did a whole bunch of strips that were very political, so they actually could use a lot of them. So they called me and told me, we can't use any of these. Can you do more? I was like, no, I can't because I'm having my exams. And then they got kind of angry at me for being not professional. I was like, what are you talking about? So after that, so it stopped there.
What was your opinion on this? How did you feel about this? Well, what you must have had some.
At a point in time, obviously, I was taught that freedom of expression, blah blah blah, that you have to be able to go. I mean, and obviously, I knew I was pushing boundaries at a point in time, but I thought in a way that should be okay. But obviously, they didn't think for some of the strips. Yeah.
You remember what kind of?
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple which I probably knew couldn't run. Like there was this. I did a fake movie poster with all the. Because there's a movie by Eric Koo called Mee Pok Man. Sure.
Seen it, yeah.
Seen Mee Pok Man, right? So he had this famous scene with the guy and the girl and the guy at the hawker center. I mean, at the table and the guy behind him, and then so I did a spoof of it where I put in all the names of the political prisoners and detainees in Singapore. And drew two of them. I think Devon Nair and Francis Xiao were inside that picture. So they stuff like that. They obviously couldn't use.
And do you remember why you did this?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people at the time, at that age especially, I think you're critical of the PAP. You think that there should be more freedom, there should be more accountability. They should sort of use their the political credit they built up to kind of admit to the mistakes or whatever errors they had at the time, or all that kind of stuff. So, sort of a more, I suppose, a very idealistic kind of point of view at the time.
And you felt that the platform was suitable for this?
Yeah, because from the beginning it was like that. Like the first few strips, really, I had one where I had the characters talking about political stuff, and then all the words were kind of blanked out, and then it was like self-censorship. So from the beginning it dealt with issues like that. So it was just a matter of how far it could go, as opposed to like bringing it in later on and changing what it was about. So they knew what to get into. So I would say, from what.
And this, how did you feel about the artwork?
Looking back, it got better over time. I think you look at the early stuff, it was really horrible. Like the drawings, the lack of gutters, the lack of panels, the writing. Not just the probably writing was bad as well, but in terms of just the look of the font was, it's just very, very raw. And it's kind of interesting to see at the same time. I think, like you mentioned last time, right, that you like to see how art changes and how it's kind
of
absolutely. And looking at the stuff I did before I went to art school, they had a rawness to them that I still kind of like and I still kind of miss in a way, because you kind of, it's more intuitive, it's more direct. I think like as you kind of, for me as I've done more comics, I started as you knew more about theory and all that, you kind of think things through a bit more and you kind of lose a bit of that, I think, rawness and energy over time.
You mean when you become more polished?
In a way,
when you start to take off the rough edges,
yeah,
you lose something, you think?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I don't know. Yes and no. I think that there's the older stuff can be interesting, but it's not necessarily better.
No, I'm not saying better. I'm just saying that it's different.
Yeah, it's different, but it's no. For my own work, I can't say that I look back and say, "Wow, that was really." Yeah, some of it's nice because it has that it's like a kinetic energy that you sort of lose when you start to follow rules, but. I don't know. I guess it both has its appeal. To me, the core is still that I have to be engaged in the story. So I love beautiful artwork for comics, but if it's a shit story, I don't care how kinetic or raw it is. If it's shit, it's shit.
Well, you still look at the art, but then you don't read the story, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess. But I like to be drawn into a story. If it's just looking at art, it's like art books. I will look at details, but never mind. This is not really important what my opinion is. So you wrote and drew. What was it called?
Frankie and Pooh.
Frank.
It's like a play of the Pooh Bear and Frankenstein.
Okay, but it was spelled Pooh like Winnie the Pooh.
P-O-O without a H.
Okay, like shit.
Shit.
Yeah. So you drew this for about a year, and did you stop? What did you do once the newspaper cancelled Frankie and Pooh?
I can't remember whether it was at the same time or afterwards, but I actually tried to get it published as a book. So it was actually published by Times Publishing back in a year later. So they did a collection of this stuff. But I think I knew after that. I mean, it was while I was doing it, I kind of felt I think doing a comic, the whole process of taking up the ideas, drawing it, getting it published, and knowing it's being seen in the world, I think I felt very engaged with the whole process. I felt like this is something I really want to do. Like really. So, but by that end of my third year in college, I knew that I wanted to do something art related. I wasn't sure comics or not, but something art related. The problem was that I had no formal training, obviously. So. And when I came to Singapore, I had no idea where to go from there, because being in school all the time, I just had gone down that narrow path of doing exams and A-levels, O-levels, so I never thought about how to become an illustrator or artist. So I talked to a friend who had been to St. Martin's in London, I think, something like that, and she told me that you want to try, you just send in your work to companies in Singapore that did illustration and design, and she said just go look at the phone book, look for under design and call them up, and just see what happens. So I did that. I looked up the phone book and I found a couple of companies, and eventually one of them actually hired me to be a sort of an illustrator. But it's sort of dodgy because I think they were more impressed by my degree in philosophy than anything else. So they hired me as a so-called instructional designer, because they did CD-ROMs for like O-level courses, like I'll teach like tuition for kids, so they thought even if I don't work out as an illustrator, I could still do the other stuff, right? So but I went there and there was this like a small bunch of illustrators there, and that's when I kind of learned a bit more because they were illustrators there, so they taught me Photoshop, Premiere, and all that stuff when I was there. And I still wanted to.
How long did you do that for?
That was also about maybe a year and a half, I think. But it's quite fun there because like everyone was. I think they hired a lot of like fresh grads from poly and unis, and so there was this bunch of us. We were all about the same age. It was like being in school, kind of still. So it was fun, but I still felt I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, because I wanted to do comics, right? And all I got to do was little illustrations of like English words, how to define this word and all that stuff. So I was still pushing to try to find a way to do comics. So at the time, I remember I actually put up posters at bookshops and comic shops, and I put a poster saying, I want to do a comic, I want to get artists to contribute to this anthology that I was thinking of. And people actually wrote in, I got like maybe 12 submissions from all over Singapore.
What was the quality like? You remember?
If I say it's my very amateurish stuff.
Yeah.
But all potential. Like one of them was a girl called Charlene Chua, who's gone on to be a pretty good illustrator. She's living in Canada now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I had no idea how to do anything really. So like how do I get it published? Where do I get the money from? All the stuff I had no clue at all.
So what happened?
So let me see.
Did you get it published?
No, the closest we came to anything, there was a guy who was doing an anthology called Zine, X-E-N-E, in Singapore. He was also like a comic fan, also had the same kind of sort of dreams to do comics in Singapore. So he actually published, I think, 4 issues of that comic. So I did the story for the last issue before they shut down. But it was as close as I ever got to.
What kind of editions are we looking at? Numbers?
I tried to get in touch with him recently again to kind of ask him about what it was like, but he hasn't really replied too much. But I remember going to his house a bit afterwards, and he had all these stacks of unsold books in his cupboard.
The same
zine,
book.
Yeah, zine. Yeah.
Ah.
So it didn't work out for him, obviously. Because,
No.
I mean, partly the comics weren't very good. I thought. I mean, the quality was very raw, and I think the one problem he had was that he came right after the sort of the comics boom in the 90s, where they had a direct market. This is a big boom right after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but after that it kind of tailed off, and then he kind of came in at that point in time. So sales weren't good here or overseas.
What did you do after this?
Not much actually. I mean, he and his friends sort of went on to do other things.
No, you. What did you do
me?
after this?
Oh,
So why would I care about this guy?
Because he's so exciting. Let's see what I do. So I had two options then. I thought I had some savings from the work, right? So I'm working a year now. So I thought, I could buy over. And I love books. I wanted to like own a bookstore. So I almost bought a second-hand bookstore from this guy. And so I can convert half of it to a studio and do my comics, and half of it I can sell books. And the other option was to go to art school, and that's what I did in the end. My sister was in the US also. She came back with a lot of this. She knew I was interested in art, so she brought back a lot of these art school brochures. And so I applied for a bunch of them and went to art school.
Where?
RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, which is in Rhode Island, East Coast, near Boston and New York.
How long were you there for?
3 years in Boston, in Rhode Island.
What do you think? What are like the main points that you think you learned from being there?
A lot. I mean, I know very little going there, so.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, what are the things that you learned there that you are actually applying today?
A lot of stuff. Like, I mean, I learned
the key. Yeah,
Oof.
the key
There
elements.
are so many keys there. Like every teacher had its own kind of emphasis. So you learn different things from different people. Like.
What did you study anyway?
Illustration, the BFA in illustration.
This is called. That's what it's called.
Yeah, they had a specific course.
What's the scope of this?
Okay.
You know, as in what is the kind of applied uses of this degree?
Well, presumably you would go into illustration and you would do like children's books, editorial illustrations, comics. Some people just do paintings after that.
Did you specialize? Is there like a major within the illustration itself, or illustration is the major and that's it?
No, there's no like so-called, well, there's no illustration module as such. In the sense that you could do painting, you could drawing, you could do like anatomy, you could do pen and ink drawings, caricature. So you know, you got to pick and choose what you want to do. I think maybe some core drawing. I think you can do at least 2 or 3 drawing courses. But beyond that, you could pick and choose, like focus on.
What did you pick and choose?
I did a lot of painting and color theory because I was hopeless at I couldn't paint when I went in, and I knew nothing about color. So a lot of focus was on those 2 things: color theory and painting. And I took comic book classes 3 years in a row, although you only just go to one time.
They would normally you're only supposed to do it.
Officially, you can only take one course once, but then the teacher knew that people would keep coming back, so he actually every year changed the name of the course so that we could take it again and again.
But it was the same course?
No, I mean the first time you went in, you did the normal, so the first book, and then subsequently you could use it as a way to do your own projects. Like he would just give you crits.
At that time, did you just study, or did you do anything outside of the study? Work.
See, this is the thing. When I went to art school, I felt it was like a holiday because everything was like drawing and painting, except for they forced me to do art history, which I hated. I actually tried to get out of it.
Why?
I felt like it was basically a waste of time. Because I went there, I had to pay school fees and everything, and I knew what I wanted to learn, and it was not art history and not as something they were teaching us, in art history course. So I thought, I'm here. I don't want to spend time doing this. So I'm not like a first year college student who has not had any sort of liberal arts education. I went to studied philosophy for 3 years, so I felt like they were just wasting my time. Forcing me to do this. where I could spend those hours painting or drawing instead. So I tried to, I went all the way to the dean of the school, and we said, no, sorry, you have to do this.
In the end, do you feel that there was any benefit to doing this? Anything you learned in art history that you feel that you are making use of today?
I mean, probably have a better grasp of famous names like, you know, like Picasso, Degas and all that, but it was probably more to do with the way they taught it. I think it was taught in a very condescending way, because like they assume that all art school students were really stupid. So the lecturer will give you this slide and says, this slide is very important, it's going to come out in your exams. Remember this fact? And like, you know, to me it was like so like primary school level nonsense. So that's really like part of it.
Did you at that time start? I mean, what were your thoughts about what was going to happen to you after? What were your projections for the future once you would have graduated? Did you have any idea? And what was that?
I would say I was I wouldn't say confident, but I knew I was quite good. I think even amongst that group of people, my work was pretty good. You know, I worked really hard at it. I mean, I spent. I mean, besides playing soccer, I think watching movies, that's all I did was I stayed in the studio and painted and drawing all the time. People would, yeah. So I was very focused on getting better. So I think it was kind of, I think the choice I had to make was what I wanted to focus on after I graduated, because you know I was interested in painting, I was interested in comics, I was interested in all kinds of stuff. But I had to kind of focus on one thing. And then after school, when I graduated, I actually got a job as a concept artist at the game company. You know, and at the same time, I got offered to do a comic, My Faith in Frankie. So I kind of had to choose, because at first I thought I could do like the day job and then go home and draw at night. It was just, you know, no way you find the time to do that. So I had to pick and choose what I wanted to do, and I chose comics. And then the problem with that was that that meant being a freelancer, so I couldn't get a visa in the US, so I had to come back to Singapore to do it. So.
What was this called?
The comic? My Faith in Frankie. It was for DC Vertigo.
Sorry, what was it called?
My Faith in Frankie.
Your Faith in Frankie, and then, but this wasn't written by you.
No, it was by Mike Carey.
And how did this come about? I mean, how did this develop? Did you send anything in?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
how did this?
Well,
how did they come to know about you?
My teacher in school, the guy who taught comics, was David Mazzucchelli. I'm not sure you heard of him. He used to do a lot of like superhero stuff. Like he did Daredevil and Batman with Frank Miller, and then he went on to, after that he quit doing that and he did like more art comics. So he told me that if I want to do comics, A, I should go to conventions like San Diego and show my work around, and B, I should send in my portfolio to he thought Vertigo was good at least. So I think he actually called or wrote to what's her name? Karen Berger, who was I think in charge of Vertigo, and told her to look out for my portfolio, which helped I think in terms of speeding it up. So 2 days ago, I went to San Diego and I got a bit of work there for Marvel. Because I think that's a long story there, but and I also got a offer from Vertigo to pitch for a new comic they were doing called Fables at the time. So. And
when you say pitch, does it mean come up with a story? Or?
No, the story was there. They had the script and all the characters ready, but I had to do like designs and a few sample pages for them. But you know, I wasn't really, you know. I thought I was ready, but I look at those pages now, they're horrible, you know. But I think, and they kind of knew I wasn't ready, so they said, you know, they went with another guy, obviously Bill Willingham instead. But a few months later, I think they saw enough potential to give me a chance on that book, because it was a 4-issue miniseries. It was like a limited run 4 issues. So.
Which?
The Frankie was only 4 issues. It was called a miniseries, so they kind of like thought it'd be a easier way in for me.
Okay. And that means you worked in commission. How long did you? And you worked on other people's stories. This is basically...
it's a writer and you draw the art,
yeah.
and someone else would color it, and someone else would do the lettering.
Yeah. And so you're part of a team.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
And this is what you started doing right after school, after the arts degree, and then you know, what else have you done since you've graduated? Have you, you know?
Well, I mean, there was the concept art design jobs. And it was a very, very brief half a year doing that, just like drawing characters and monsters and all that. But since coming back, yeah, I've been doing that comic. I've been doing in Singapore. I do a bit of illustration work for here and there.
And that means that in the past 10 over years, you have worked for all these different publishers like Vertigo, which is an imprint of DC Comics. You've worked for... maybe you just run down the list if you don't mind.
Marvel, Disney Press, SLG, Image Comics, although that's kind of more like self-publishing. First, second books.
To me, Frankie and Pooh is in a way more interesting as a reflection of you as an artist than My Faith in Frankie, because you're executing somebody else's vision. You know, you're adding yours to it, but it's like a director of cinematography who also directs the movie, or just being a director of cinematography, and which is, by the way, a really good job to have. I mean, they can make or break films, it's not that, but Frankie and Pooh is like, is you, much more you than... So I'm just curious, once you finish your degree, you start working for either a game company or for a publisher.
Actually, I missed out on Monkey Robot as well. I actually did, it was a project I did for comic book class at school. So I did like a 20-page story for class, and then when I graduated, while I was working for the company in the US, I actually went and photocopied it. You know, I think I photocopied like 20 copies, stapled together, and sold it at my local comic book store in Boston. And I did pretty well, because I think, you know, the sales people there were really supportive. You know, so they put it right at the front counter and put it local artists comic. So it sold out pretty fast, and that gave me the confidence to apply for a Zarek grant. Zarek grant, which is back, I think now it's no longer exists, but back then, Peter Ladd of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because his book had started out as an independent comic and went on to make millions of dollars. So he wanted to put money back into the industry. So every year they would give out grants for first-time comic creators to start publishing their own work. So I applied for that, and I got a grant. And by the time I actually published it, I was back in Singapore already. So, so that story kind of also, I think, was how I got into Flight, the anthology, as well. So
by Image.
First volume by Image, subsequent volumes by other companies. We went on to Villa and other places. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like the stuff that you do on your own is definitely more engaged. It's more personal. Like you're fully engaged, you're fully involved. Whereas the stuff which is done with another writer, it's you know, you're half engaged with it. You know, like there are things you want to be done differently, but you have to kind of negotiate with the writer how it's done. So it's more collaborative, obviously.
So what did you do after you left school? You did these, like My Faith in Frankie. You worked on the gaming, the character design.
I did Monkey Robot, and
you did more of Malinky Robot. You said that you did that in school, or you did it again after school.
After school, well, it was. I mean, when they contacted me for Flight, I actually did another story for them. But that was like, I was back in Singapore already at the time, so it wasn't like right after school. So yeah, I mean, right after school, it was just like the company was like, Frankie, that was the main focus at the time.
And since then, just run me through like the highlight projects that you can remember from the last 10 years.
Okay. Let's see, after Fifth and Frankie, okay, there was Regiftus, which was also with DC. It was a new imprint called DC Minx. It was also written by Mike Carey. Throughout every few years, I would do a story for The Flight, a new Maliki robot story. Was Wonderland with SLG and Disney, which was kind of cool. In the end, it was also a bit of a disaster, but it was kind of cool at the time.
Why was it a disaster?
I think we did a pretty good book, and Disney just kind of did very hopeless things with the marketing and everything else.
How long did each of these big projects take you? Like Alice in Wonderland, can you tell me how many pages, how long?
Most books tend to be about 100 and at least 120, so, and then climbs up to 150 maybe, or 180 even. So under 200, I think. Time frame wise, I normally looking at 6 months, half a year per project at least. Because you factor in the fact that you have to do the designs, characters, environments, the research and all that at the beginning of the process, and maybe every new issue you do, you have to look at new stuff. So plus drawings, you do like at best 20 a month, maybe something like that. So it takes quite a while to the book.
So how long would you say does it take you to do one? If you are the penciler, and the inker, and you work with a colorist, and you do your own lettering?
No, someone else does it.
So how long does it take the entire team to produce one page, do you think?
Well, I mean, when I was doing stuff for Marvel, we could do like an issue a month. We had to do an issue a month. That's how fast you had to do it. So it was like 22 pages a month. Yeah, it was just, you had to do it.
Okay.
Time frame.
So basically, you would do an absolute maximum of 2 books a year.
Yeah. Well, depends on the book. I mean, you could do like. That's how you define a book. If you do like a short story for an anthology, obviously a lot more things come out.
But if we're looking at a full-size 100 plus book, 100 pages plus book, it would definitely be 6 months or more.
To a degree, I mean, the kind of book that I do, I suppose, I mean, if you did like stick figures and all that, obviously if you try different styles, it could.
I mean, you.
Yeah, so maybe 2 a year, yeah, at best.
Okay. That means you. If it takes you so long to do it, you have to be careful with what you pick, because you spend a lot of time on it. So how do you pick projects? Or you just take what is offered to you in the order in which they offer it?
Well, sometimes you have to reject stuff because you're looking at something else. And sometimes, I have rejected stuff before which turned out to be mistakes. Like I think I turned down this project called what's it called? And I called it the robot Surrogates. It became a movie. It was pushed to this later on. So I could have worked on that, and I think they put up some money for film rights and everything else. So I turned it down because I thought the story wasn't strong enough. But.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But that doesn't prevent them from making a movie. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, you turn down stuff once they feel are not quite right for you, I suppose.
But what is your criteria for selecting?
I think if Marvel or DC come knocking your door, you probably tend to do it because they do pay a lot higher than anybody else. So page rates.
So the consideration is money.
Well,
at that point.
And they do tend to have good teams. Like everyone who works there tends to be quite good at what they do. So like the writer they get will be like Mike Carey or somebody else who's strong. So you know that you're doing a good product at the end of the day. Whereas sometimes you get offers from people from DeviantArt. They're writers and say it's my first comic, I want to try this, but you have no idea how good they are or what they want to do, and it gets a bit tricky because and all the times they don't have any money to pay you. It's like, let's do this and then pitch it to like Image or something. So it gets tricky. Whereas if someone comes to you and say, here's a project, we're going to pay you so much money, work with this guy, that's a lot easier to decide.
So that means money is a great part of your consideration.
I mean, obviously, this is what I live off, right? This is my livelihood. I've got to, you know, and then I'll do like illustrations works as well, which I wouldn't do otherwise because of money as well. Like we pay quite high, you know, for like illustration work, for like advertising, all that. So that's definitely a big thing. But right now, right now my current project, if I look at it in money terms, it doesn't make any sense. Charlie Chan Hong Chai. It's money-wise, it's a ridiculous thing. But I'm doing it because like you said, I'm really involved in the process. So I think sometimes you save some money from those projects and then you can do what you want after that. I think that's what you're doing too with your...
The intergalactic lost and found, yeah.
So
actually,
kind of a balance, right? You try to...
Well, for me, it's I am fully prepared to not make any money whatsoever, and it's just going to cost because I just want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's for the experience. Since you left school, how many? You've done Malinky Robot, which is your own. It's also initiated by you, although eventually it became initiated or motivated by the fact that somebody else was publishing anthologies in which they wanted these stories. But aside from Malinky Robot, have you done any
One stuff?
Yeah, like where you're the author as well.
I've done a strip, one-page comic called Chang and Eng. It was for a magazine, New Man magazine, but I've done stuff since then that nothing closed down. So that's kind of a return to Vahi and Pooh because it's very political. It's about Singapore. It's two guys who kind of go around Singapore doing stupid things. And it actually started as an idea for that anthology I was dreaming about before I went to art school. You know, so I wanted to do like these two guys who try to go on a road trip to Singapore, which is kind of inherently silly because it's a small country. You can't actually do a road trip, but you know, so it's about their adventures, trying to do silly stuff within the context.
Okay.
So that one, Liquid City kind of is, you know, it's kind of a personal project where you try to get people together to do a anthology together. So that's kind of a personal project, although I do only do at most one story per volume.
Sorry, what is Liquid City?
Liquid City? You've seen it, right?
The anthology?
Anthology, yeah.
But what is your part in that? You contribute a story?
No, I thought the whole thing, I mean, after I did Flight, I thought it'd be really cool to have something similar for local, regional artists. So I got, I think I kind of got people's...
Let's go back a few steps. You gotta understand that this is for people that don't know you, all right? And I wouldn't know this either. So basically, the way you gotta present it to me, if you don't mind, is as in a story format. That you say, I worked on an anthology, which gave me the idea, so that I can. It's also for me because you're throwing it out like I'm supposed to know. I don't. Trust me.
So. I worked on Flight, and I thought Flight was really interesting for me, partly because the way they did it was that they would get people to submit their thumbnails onto a forum, like a forum page, and then everybody involved in that project would kind of offer crits, feedback and all that. And and everyone's really friendly and it's really great. People would just kind of react and say, yeah, you're right, I'll fix that. And and I would go to the conventions in the US and meet all the artists who also went to the conventions, and it's sort of a community that builds up. You kind of meet artists that you wouldn't have met any other way. So I thought it'd be good for Singapore or the region because, like, I think a lot of us just draw comics on our own, right? We get in the studios, we kind of do our own thing, but there's not enough interaction between the creators. So I thought, we could do something similar, like a forum where everyone can talk and do stuff together. So that kind of was what sparked off the idea to do a regional anthology featuring artists from Southeast Asia. So I got a bunch of names, people who said they would be keen. I got their artwork, I got their bios, and I sent it into Image and say, I want to do something like this. Would you be interested? And they say, yeah, let's go ahead. So basically, I kind of followed the Flight format quite as much as I could. Similar kind of looking book, similar kind of process where you kind of get people to feedback. Although it was a lot harder here in Southeast Asia than it was for Flight. And I think people here are just more reticent. They're like kind of it's a feature that that people told me about in general in like companies in Singapore versus companies in US. I think people in US tend to be more vocal, more willing to talk, whereas in Singapore or whole Asia generally, artists tend to be a bit more self-contained. You know, so I think people like Lucas or people who work in the US come as art directors come in and tell me that you can't get them to talk. You have to like force it on them. You know, so it's kind of a different process. People who do talk tend to be a bit too critical sometimes. So I think you have to be a bit gentler with your comments sometimes. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. They're very inexperienced in communication, verbal and otherwise, where you gotta address certain things. You know, like you said, it's either nothing or it's kind of shitty, a shitty way of presenting. Yeah, like quite nasty things where So you did. This is called Liquid City. You did Malinky Robot and. Yeah, but this was how many pages of those did you create?
Maybe 20 plus stories.
Okay, and but stories you mean one story, one page.
Mm-hmm.
So about 20 pages. 20
plus, yeah.
20 plus, okay. And now you're working on
I'm working on a book for Epigram Books, which is a local publisher. I think that they're the first local publisher to actually take the risk to do local works, and try to pay some money at least compared to most publishers here. So a bunch of us, I can't remember what happened exactly, but for some reason we sort of got together and I got some artists to commit to doing a few books. I think they published 5 comics over the last year. So I'm working on a book called The Art of Charlie Chan Hock Chan, which is sort of about a Singaporean comic artist from the 1950s to the present.
And your involvement in the publication with Epigram is...
They kind of brought me in sort of I guess the best thing would be a consulting editor at some level, because through Liquid City and other projects, I've kind of built up a sort of a small network of artists locally and all that. So they asked me if I could ask who was interested. So I sent out emails to a bunch of people and see, hey, you guys want to do a comic?
Are you involved in any other editorial capacity?
To some degree. In the sense that I recommend artists to them, and then they look at it and see if they like them.
I meant more in terms of the books themselves.
A little bit, because this might become it's probably all the record.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. If you don't know, then we don't have to talk about it. Okay, so you are working on this new book. What can you tell me about this number of pages? How long do you expect it to take? Color, black and white, etc.
It's going to be in color. Page-wise, initially I thought 120, but it's going to be more like 200 or 300 pages, I think. Looking at it now. So it's basically a look at this artist's career and also at the same time history of Singapore. So it's involved a lot of research, much more than I anticipated. And also trying to tell the story is tricky because it's sort of in the format of an art book, like an art of Harvey Kurtzman, art of Will Elder.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, those books you tend not to read as a book. You tend to read it as a coffee table book. So you kind of dip in and out whenever you want to. So the challenge for this book is to try to tell a story that's linear. Like you want to compel the reader to read that comic as a story, but at the same time have the feel of a art book. You have like this art, obviously here and there, inserts and everything. So it's been a real challenge trying to do that. I think that's the main challenge.
How long do you think it will take you to create this thing?
I hope to finish by the end of the year, but maybe sooner, like October, November. But
how long have you worked on it? What was the total duration that you worked on this project? Would you say in actual?
I can't be sure because I actually started a bit of research while working on another project, the Green Turtle project. So I spent I think I took a break for a month or So, and then in between I would like do reading and stuff. So there was all this stuff, and then once I finished that book, I spent the last July. I can tell you, at least the last 3-4 months doing research and doing the thumbnails.
And you're saying it might be 200 pages?
Definitely 200.
Definitely 200, but you still think you can finish within 6 months? Full color?
Well...
Are you going to be doing your own coloring, or...?
Well, I might hire people to do that thing for me, but that's a different thing. Even the scanning maybe.
Okay, and does that mean that you'll be putting in your own money into this project, or is it all paid for? Because the moment you start to hire outside.
Well, no, they pay me like an advance plus office fee. You know, it's minimal, but it's still.
It will cover your costs, but basically
I'm doing so free basically. To a degree. I mean, obviously they're paying more than zero.
What do you envision your career to be after this? What is it that you see yourself doing more, and what do you see yourself doing less?
I mean, the plan or the hope is to be able to do your own stuff and at the same time get paid for it, right? I mean, and not have to juggle commercial and personal. Personal is commercial. That's the dream. So I guess I would want to work towards that, you know, to be able to establish myself enough that I can do more of my own projects. You know. So this, I think, is part of it. I think if this book, for example, does well, then that can give me hopefully more opportunities to do stuff like that, where it's personal work that can still get published. And I'm also talking to a friend about doing a book that she wrote. I think I told you this before. About a sort of a ghost story set in Malaysia in the last century. So again, it's kind of more local, more personal stuff that I want to work on.
And the idea is that you would like to remain a comic book artist, or do you have any other aspirations?
I want to do painting as well. Obviously, I've done some painting shows in the past, but it's very hard to find time for it. But at some point, I hope to take a break from comics and do some painting as well.